I'm Tara.
And I'm Jill.
We are living on a dime. And today we're talking about it's time for a reality check. And we are here to give it to you. And we're probably going to make a lot of people very angry.
I was going to say, don't get the tomatoes out, guys. We're only trying to help.
We have been having, we talked about this last week's show, a lot of flack from people who, when I said that I don't think there's going to be food shortages, how we're just conspiracy theorists and we're not listening to what people are saying, and how dare we do that? Say that there's not going to be food shortages because people are, it's just, sure, it's coming. We only have 3 months worth of food. The whole world only has 90 days worth of food left. And so we were going to have a little chat today and a little wake-up call. I told Mom, I told Mike this. I said, was it last night? I think I told him. I said, I feel like we are on the Titanic. Mom and I guess, but I am standing on the, I don't know what that thing called, the mast or something, but the lookout thing. And I'm yelling, there's an iceberg ahead, there's an iceberg ahead. You got to turn the boat. And the viewers are the passengers on the boat. And I'm yelling, you got to start rowing, turn the boat. You got to start rowing, turn the boat. And they're like, well, yeah, but I need a new car. Well, yeah, but I'm really tired today, so I don't feel like cooking. So we're going to go out to eat. Well, and I'm like, no, you got to turn the boat. You got to turn the boat. Well, I know, but, I really need a vacation now. I haven't had a vacation in 3 months. I need a vacation. Yeah, we actually had this one. So I told Mike and then Mom, I said, I feel like we're on the Titanic.
Trying to warn everybody.
You got to turn your boat around. But nobody's wanting to turn the boat around. And
they don't want to believe it's really going to hit the iceberg, or that there's a chance the ship could ever sink,
Or that, or they think I'm being two-faced. Actually, we got this comment today that says, now you are trying to prove why there will not be food shortages. For the past year, you have been begging people to stock up. Make up your mind. A double-minded person is unstable. Well, I'm not being double-minded. People think that because you have a stockpile and we have been telling people to prepare, that that's being double-minded. It's not. We have been saying for 25 years.
And I've been doing it for 40.
25 years. We have been saying this on our website and newsletters. Stock up for emergencies. You never know when you're going to have a job loss. You never know when you're going to have a hurricane. You never know when you're going to have a mudslide, a flood, a thing going around. You never know when your husband's going to fall off the ladder, break his back, and not be able to work for 6 months. You never know when it's going to happen. I'm not being double-minded. Just because I say I think the world has more than 90 days worth of food, that's not going back on what I've been saying before. And so as we've been doing this, somehow I kind of got on these hoarder shows, and they're pretty disgusting. But some of them that weren't like just filth, I got to watching them, and this one lady, I'm not exaggerating, this one lady, she had to have had probably 6 6-foot tables. You couldn't quite see in the picture, but I was estimating about 6 6-foot tables. Nothing but yarn. She had to have had $15,000 worth of yarn. And mom is a seamstress. She quilts, she knits, she does all that. She knows how much this yarn is. And I was just like, and then this woman was complaining about how she lived on Social Security and she didn't have the money to pay for anything. And so we wanted today to kind of give a reality check.
Well, and sometimes we look at things like, we'll mention, you know, the expensive coffees or going out to eat. But today we want to touch on things, and people say, well, how can I save on chicken? You know, their chicken prices. And we're trying to get you to focus off of those things because those things are obvious to you. And we want you to focus on other areas of where you're spending your money and you have no clue that you're spending it or realizing it. And you're doing it only because you love it. It's comfortable. It's your fun thing. And like Tara was saying, she mentioned too that this lady had like 3 dogs and 2 cats. And she had stacks and stacks of magazines, stacks and stacks of books.
Oh my goodness, she had to have had probably $10,000 or $15,000 worth of books and magazines.
We're talking floor to ceiling stuff here in all the rooms. You know,
just
really,
the dog toys alone, just the toys. That doesn't include all the beddings. I mean, I don't know how many dog beds they pulled out and cat beds they pulled out. I mean, there was probably 10, 20 dog cat beds. And she had to have in animal paraphernalia probably $1,000 to $2,000 at least.
Yeah, and that's what we're wanting to say. She probably doesn't even know this. And so here people, like we're going in to help her clean and stuff, but she was on Social Security and she was barely making it and didn't know what to do. But yet she had plenty of money. She didn't have money to have somebody come in once every couple of weeks to help her clean. But she had the money for all this other stuff. And the point we're trying to make tonight is for you to refocus instead of getting panicky and fearful and worrying about, oh dear, chicken's going up. I can't get my favorite crackers because they're going up in price. You know, well, I'm not going to give up my coffee or my tea, my favorite tea, even if the price is going up. We're trying to get you focused off of that and to refocus on these other things that may be a little bit uncomfortable for you that you're spending your money on, but you don't realize it.
Mom.
Because that's where most people's money is really going. I mean, I'll use this story again. You guys have heard it. When I went to have my hair done years ago, this gal was cutting my hair and she found out what I did. And she said, well, I know, I'm so stressed. Can you help me figure out how to save on my money? Well, she just said on my money, save with my money. She's, I'm so stressed. I have to work. I don't want to work anymore. My legs are hurting me. I'm just exhausted, but I can't stop work because we don't have the money for me to stop working. And I don't know what to do. And she said, I have to go out to eat every single night. With the whole family goes out to eat 7 days a week. And we have to go to a sit-down restaurant, not fast food, sit-down restaurant, because I just have to have time to unwind, to de-stress, to have somebody wait on me, and every night to gather my wits about me again. And she goes on for 45 minutes telling me about how stressed she is, how hard it is working.
Now, hold on. This was probably 15 years ago. And so let's say haircuts were probably around $20. So we're talking, she spent 2 to 3 hours worth of her income to have each day, 2 to 3 hours to have people wait on her because she was too tired
to just cook. But the thing is, so she gives this whole spiel and then she stops and says, so can you tell me how to save on laundry detergent? And I'm looking at her and I thought, are you kidding me? She did not, it didn't even register with her that the going out to eat was the problem. And she didn't want to see it as a problem. She didn't want to look at it because it was something she loved. She enjoyed it, made her comfortable. And she didn't want to see that. Laundry detergent, she could care less about. She didn't mind if I told her, you got to get rid of the laundry detergent, or you got to cut it in half or get a different brand or something like that. She didn't mind that at all. what she was, she just didn't see the real problem. And tonight we're going to name some things. I don't know, I got my list. You want me to start name some things that people aren't looking at that's causing the real problem. Yeah, grocery prices may be going up some, but the thing is, you've got to get yourself out of debt and get your mortgage paid. That's what you've got to concentrate on now. You've got to concentrate on the big stuff, the harder stuff, the stuff that's going to make you uncomfortable, because grocery prices are going to be small compared to what's happening. But nobody ever complains about the stuff we're going to talk about. I've never heard anybody complain about the price of yarn going up, about the price of books going up, about the price of fabric going up, about dog toys getting more expensive, or it's getting more expensive going to the vets,
or getting more animals.
Car washes getting expensive, all these things. Nobody complains about those because those are things they want to do. It causes less work for them, but it's costing you money.
Yeah.
And in order to get out of debt, get your mortgage paid so that if the food costs do go up, you will be in such a place that you can handle it. It will, and I bet you, I wish you guys would comment on here, those of you that have gotten out of debt again and, have paid your mortgages off, let the other ones know how it made you feel, how stress-free, how when you got it done, it really made a big difference. And that was what the problem was the debt and the mortgage. Not chicken going up by $2 a pound even, that type of thing. So,
yeah. Okay, so we have several people offended already, so we're doing our job right. How dare we criticize hoarders? Listen. Okay.
First of all,
my mother married a hoarder. So don't even get me started on hoarders. I know hoarders very well. My mother knows hoarders very well. It is a mental illness, but let me tell you something. They are in control of themselves. Don't you even dare.
Oh dear.
I'm doing this with grace and love. Don't you dare tell me there is nothing they can do to control their mental illness.
My husband controlled it just fine after we got married.
And they can control it on the things that they want to control it for. It is an excuse. It is an excuse to not deal with reality. It is an excuse to put your things over your family. It is an excuse to not go in and get the psychiatric help that you need. And it is not some sort of illness that is not fixable.
Well, before you guys start making more comments like this, that's part of the problem. That's what part of what we're talking about.
Exactly the problem.
We're going to have people say you're judging. We're going to have people saying you don't understand. We're going to have people say everything's a mental illness or some kind of an illness now. I'm sorry. It's everything you do is an illness. If you go shopping and you spend too much money, that's an illness. We have been conditioned now to always automatically say that. And we're being unkind and awful when we don't understand, if we think somebody's saying something negative like that. But you know what? I have heard alcoholics and people on drugs say they struggled for years and years with these addictions and different problems. And they said they finally got over it because somebody stood up and said, you need to get a grip. You need to take care of things.
Okay, along with that, Kathleen says, hoarding is often a sign of mental illness and compassion dealing with them is necessary. No. They need someone to tell them the truth.
Yeah, and that's what
they're being selfish twits and they need to get help.
That's what I was going to say. What this alcoholics have said is they said, everybody sympathized with me. Everybody always felt sorry for me. And they told me this is just an illness and you can never get over it. He said, I had no hope. I had no hope because nobody told me I could fix this. He said, finally, I had somebody get in there and say, this is what your problem is. And it's up to you to deal with it. And unless you decide you want to deal with it and get over it, that's fine. So it isn't, so stop you're wanting to use this excuse because there's probably something in your own life that you don't want to look at. And that's why people jump in with the excuses, saying that we're judging. I don't even know you guys. We don't even know the hoarders on TV. We just know what we've dealt with for 25 years for Tara and 40 for me. And this is what we've discovered. So it has nothing to do with judging or not being compassionate and understanding. One of the first things when I did the tests I had to have in counseling when I was taking my training to do family counseling, the first test I had was the guy that was training me. He said, if you have a wife that comes in with dragging her husband in for counseling and he doesn't want to be there, what do you say to him? And I said, I can't do anything with him. I wouldn't even talk to him and try to counsel him. Does that sound hard-hearted? Maybe. But I said, he's not going to listen. And I passed the test with flying colors, because what you don't realize is until you acknowledge there's a problem in half of these cases and a lot of this stuff, you can't do anything for these people. And as long as you're constantly trying to help them clean their house, help them,
give them excuses,
and being so sympathetic and understanding, they're not going to get over it. Mm-hmm. They have no consequences from what they're doing, and they just keep living in it. And you're doing them more of a disservice by not recognizing that and wanting to help them more. And that, so how do we get onto that? Because I was just wanting to tell you guys something to look at in your own lives. But see, that's it. You'd rather get on these tangents and talk about these types of things and not hear what we're really trying to say. You want to hear, well, just to justify, and to argue. And that's not what we're here for. And as long as you can make your excuses and do all of that, you don't have to hear the reality.
Kathleen, I'm sorry, but you're making excuses. I have never had a serious, if you have ever had a serious mental illness, you don't understand how difficult it is to ask for help. Sorry.
Actually, I do.
I deal with these issues on a daily basis.
Excuse me, all of us in the house. Yeah. You're talking to
everyone has issues.
Yeah.
And you know what? Pretty much for the last 30 years, every morning I wake up and I think, whoopee, I woke up again. I can hardly wait to start my day. No, I don't. For 30 years, I wish I wouldn't wake up. Why? Because I'm tired of living like this. But you know what? I get my butt up. I get myself dressed. I put on my makeup. If I need antidepressants, I go to the doctor. If I need to change my diet, I change my diet. If I need to have counseling, I go to counseling. Mike has done the same thing. It's an excuse.
Well, and if people were holding my hand through it all, then I would have an excuse to beat you and yell at you and do all kinds of things.
Mike, it's like Mike said, you can't hold someone's hand. You either decide you're going to do something to combat it, or you don't. And if you don't want to do that, that's on you. But you need a kick in the pants to say there is something you can do, even if it's just getting dressed and putting on your makeup and doing the dishes.
But you know what? There's not one person listening here that doesn't have some kind of a serious problem, a physical problem, emotional problem, mental problem with their children, problem with their parents.
And if you think you don't,
everyone.
That's your problem.
And if you don't, yeah, Dave said, if you don't think you do, that's your problem. But everybody has a problem. And the ones that survive and are the strongest and are going to make it through these next few years are the ones that are willing to admit it and try to do something. The ones that aren't going to survive are the ones that are making excuses and trying to bury their head in the sand and pretend like it'll go away, or say, well, that's not possible to fix. That's not possible to take care of. And, I think most of our people have been on here long enough that some of them have come out of unbelievable situations and conditions because they just stood up and they started trying to do things. They stood up and stopped spending money on different areas. And it's really not worth even arguing. It's like with the with the guy coming, his wife dragging him in for counseling, I could sit and argue with him all day, but if he didn't see he had a problem, there's no use even talking about it, you know, because until you actually open your eyes and see that there's a situation, we could talk about this till the cows come home and not probably get any place really. So, but I was wanting to go over a list now.
I'm still ranting, Mom.
You're still
No, listen, I don't know how we got on that, but somebody need to know that these excuses are excuses, and you're not gonna get any sympathy from us. You're gonna get solutions from us.
That's what we're having here is 1, 2, 3 of how to fix these things.
And the problem is people don't want solutions because they don't want to do the work
They
for the
don't want to.
solutions.
They'd rather
like the
make
hoarders.
the excuses and
Yeah. You can take 4 bags of trash out of your house every day. You can stop going and buying more stuff and bringing it in the house. You can stop living on Social Security, whining about how you don't have any money, and yet you're going and spending and spending and spending.
And it is controllable because my husband, he collected a lot of stuff, but he was not hoarding like his father did after we got married. Now, when he left, he went back to that type of thing. So that shows you these types of things are controllable. If you're surrounded by people that are supporting you and having, you know, not having all the sympathy, but supporting you, there's a big difference in that. And you know, if you have motivation, but most people just don't care. They like using their excuses. They like, you know, and that type of thing. So they don't do it. But.
And Lindsay is throwing out things as we speak. You go, girl.
You go.
We want a
Way to
tally
go.
at the end of the show. We want a tally at the end
it
of the
was
show.
worth it if only one person starts throwing out things, I guess. But that's not even what the show was going to be about. So do I get to say my list now?
So
one thing about, because
No.
Colleen was just saying a lot of hoarders have root issues they've not dealt with, and the main thing is you have to just deal with your issues.
Yeah,
that's what we're saying. Yeah,
you have to deal with your issues, and you know,
but whether it's hoarding issue or you're spending too much money issue, they all go back to the same thing. You need to deal with the root of the problem, is what it is,
and that's what we're trying to say. You have to get to the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm. What's really causing the problem, not the surface.
And the root of the problem is you're being a selfish twit. And you need to turn this around for yourself. You need to love yourself enough to turn this around. And after seeing all these people saying how they can't afford food because they're on Social Security, but yet they're going to the quilt shops, we're not putting up with excuses.
I've had people that tell me, well, we'll start with fabric. I have had quilting friends I've gone to quilt guilds and stuff where the people have taken and they have what they call a shop hop, and they go to all the quilt stores in the area. They'll spend $1,000 in one day buying fabric. People with yarn, they want to buy hand-dyed yarn. That's the in thing now, is to knit with hand-dyed yarn. It's $25 to $35 a skein, and they want to make a sweater, and they need 5 to 6 skeins for the sweater. Do you know how much that adds up to? But they don't have enough money to pay their bills. You've got to get this debt taken care of, because you won't be able to take care of yourself when the food gets even higher and things like that. You can't get this mentality. You've got to get over this mentality. If I have a craft I want to do, scrapbooking, you can't just go buy anything and everything you want for it. And what we want to do is teach you ways to have your hobbies and enjoy them, but not spend the money. That was kind of the purpose of what I was trying to do here. For example, I love quilting, but I very rarely buy fabric. I've had never bought hardly any fabric, very small. Maybe I bought $20 last year for the whole year, and that was because I knew I was moving up here and I might not have a fabric shop. But stop and think, okay, if I can't buy fabric, what can I do? Well, what I did was at our quilt guild, they would have the gals bring in and get rid of some of their stash, their fabric that they weren't using. They'd make up packets and have us make quilts for charity. I would go get those packets and make tons of quilt for charity. At my quilt bee, the ladies would bring in their extra fabric they didn't want anymore, and I would take it, and some of the others too, and we'd make up quilts to send out for charity quilts and stuff, or exchange our quilt stuff so we didn't have to buy. What I did was I went from, instead of spending tons of money on fabric and not being able to do my hobby and think, oh great, I can't do my hobby now, to figuring out solutions to how can I use my fabric. Maybe you may have to do it the old-fashioned way and just take your older clothes and cut them up and you make quilts. There's a whole list of things. Instead of panicking and getting upset, well, I don't want to give up my fabric, what I want you to do is think, okay, how can I have this hobby, my yarn or whatever, and not spend the money? You'd be amazed when you start using that part of your brain. You will be so much more proud of yourself, more confidence, have more self-esteem. You won't do the hoarding if you have those things as much. And the thing is, you'll have a whole different attitude. And you'll start taking that money and put it towards your debt or towards your mortgage. You see what I mean? If you can't buy the yarn, what do? Go to a thrift store, buy an old wool sweater, unravel it, and use the yarn if you have to. But everybody says, oh, they'll say to Tara, you're so clever, you're so clever. No, we aren't any more clever than the average person. It's just that we've had to use that section of our brain because we've lived without so little for so long. We had to figure out ways, how can I have what I want or what I need without spending money? And you start using that and you get more and more and more. Just like the gal, I don't know who it was, says she's starting to clean bags of stuff out already. Once she stands up and starts doing that, she's going to be so amazed at how it gets her started thinking, okay, I need to do this. I need to fix this. Once you get this ball rolling, you'll be just surprised. Scrapbooking, scrapbooking can get so expensive. I saw the most beautiful scrapbook I ever saw. It was from the 1890s. And I thought, I would love to do this. This was long before you had all the equipment. You bought all the cards, stop and papers, and all that kind of stuff. And in this book, she had taken little bits and bobs of different things, cards, little pieces of lace, ribbon, that I knew it was just scrappy stuff she had around the house. She colored, she drew little pictures. It was beautiful. And I could tell she had spent no money on that thing at all, on this whole scrapbook. So think of ways that you can do these things. So,
we're having a reality check today for those of you just checking in here. And everyone's complaining about inflation. Not saying it's not happening, but
it's happening. So what do you do with it then?
What are you going to do so that you can afford groceries?
Instead of hollering about the prices and worrying and getting afraid and fretting over it, okay, take a deep breath and stop and think, what am I going to do about it?
Yep.
How am I going to fix it? This is life. This has been life for years. We'll probably do another video on it, but I told Tara today, right before we started, I said, people say poor kids, they can't find them. I shouldn't even say this because we'll get another tangent, but don't make a comment on this. But, poor kids, they can't afford a house. It's so hard nowadays to get a house with all this, this inflation, everything. I looked it up. In the 1900s, you had to have 50% of what a house cost before you could get a mortgage. Then when you got a mortgage, you had 5 years. And a balloon payment would come up and you'd have to finish it. Those were hard times. Those were hard things. What did the people do? They figured out what they just started saving their money and doing the best they could. Things are going to be hard. And you've got to relearn. You've lived in comfort. You've had credit cards where you just throw that credit card out there and spend your money. Don't give it a second thought. And I mean, if you can't pay the bill, you just declare bankruptcy. This is the attitude of everybody, or you get somebody else to pay it for you, the government to pay you checks or something. And that's everybody's attitude. You've got to stop it because you're not going to have anybody to support you anymore. It's not going to be there. That's why we're trying to get you a little bit prepared. There won't be the people out there to pick you up. There won't be the food banks to give you food anymore. And so we're trying to show ways that you can save money that you probably overlook all the time. And you overlook it. We never have heard anybody complain about the fabric prices going up. Like we said earlier, books and magazines. Oh my goodness. I talked to somebody just a couple of weeks ago, and they said, well, they had somebody else actually pay off their house for them because they couldn't afford it. Their house got paid off, and they said, well, we just got some things in the mail about a book club, so we're going to start ordering from this book club. I said, why are you doing that? Why don't you go to the library?
We're like 2 miles from the library.
Oh, I don't even know if it's that. Yeah.
Like 2 miles.
And I said, why don't you go to the library? Well, you know, this is kind of handy that we get this book club and we can just sit and look through it and everything. And they didn't want to do it. They wanted to do the book club. And see, I would, without having money, I would stop and think, okay, I want to read. I'm an avid reader. I read until I'm just crazy reading. And so I didn't have the money to have a book club or to buy books or to go Barnes. I've never bought one book from Barnes and Nobles, and never. And so what do? I go to the library. Well, we don't have a library. So, and I'm, you know, I can't do that. Okay, think, what can you do? Thrift stores have books all the time for a quarter, 50 cents, garage sales all the time.
At the end of garage sales, people give away boxes of books.
You can trade with a friend that you know. The gals at RB were exchanging books all the time. There's a way to get books to read, and magazines. We'd exchange magazines. I actually got hired for a job, and part of my job description was to sort through every morning. I'd go in, am I off camera there? Every morning I went to work, and there was a stack of magazines this high that I had to resort through each day. And this woman said, I don't ever read these. I probably should just not get them anymore. And you don't know how many women have stacks of magazines all over their house. Not a hoarder necessarily, just a stack of magazines sitting by their couch. Someday they're going to read them. And cancel those subscriptions. Why are you doing that? You can go to the library and read magazines. You can even get magazines from some libraries for free. The gals in our quilt, like I said, in our quilt guild, we exchange quilting magazines all the time. You know, they would have them to look at. We'd look at them and things. One gal, she always bought. I had another friend, totally different friend, that she always bought tons of books. And she went to I said, why don't you go to the library? Because she just didn't have the money. And so she went finally, after years of me telling her this, she went to the library. Her and her husband went, and she called me on the phone. She said, I can't believe it, because on our library receipts in Wichita, they tell you how much you saved with the books you checked out over buying them, which I thought was a great thing. And she called me. She said, my husband and I, at the end of our receipt, saved $800 today with the books alone. She said, I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I'll never do that again. Buy books. You know, she'll go to the library. These are things you think you get just a $15 magazine subscription, $20 magazine subscription, no big deal. You get another one. You get another one. You're up to $100 a month magazine subscriptions. These are just some of the things.
But hold on. So we had a comment that some libraries are having a problem with bed bugs. Listen.
There goes the excuses.
Stop with the excuses.
Did you hear what we just said? Okay, you can't go to the library. So you go to a garage sale. Why are you even mentioning that?
And
why
if it's a problem, put them in a bag with a bug bomb, or in a black plastic bag and set them in the sun for a week. You'll kill them. But here's the thing. People have been using that bed bug excuse for the last 25 years. 25 years they've been using the bed bug excuse. And Mike and I have never once, almost every single piece of our furniture is used. Almost every piece is used. We have never had a bed bug issue. You inspect it before you leave. You can see bed bugs, but stop letting excuses and fear.
You're focusing on the problem. You see, you're focusing on the problem and giving a reason why you can't do it. This is how we're trying to retrain you. Don't say, well, some libraries have bed bugs. Say, Well, you could go to the garage sale if the libraries have bed bugs, but you're not even thinking that direction. And that's where we're running into problems. You're running into problems. And you said they say that some libraries are having bed bugs. Does your library have bed bugs? You know, or was it something you just heard on the internet? I've heard of people getting bed bugs sitting on an airplane, driving in somebody else's car. Does that mean your life is supposed to stop functioning and that gives you an excuse to spend more money? You could go to Barnes & Noble to buy a book and sit down in one of their chairs to look at the book and go home with bed bugs on you. You know, reason this stuff out instead of just start making excuses, huh?
You get hit by a meteorite, you wouldn't even touch it.
Yeah, I know.
Mike said you get hit by a meteorite, you wouldn't even have a chance.
So you see what's going on here. I hope some of you are at least seeing what we're trying to explain.
Well, and somebody says bed bugs. I've never heard of that in books. Well, I haven't either. So use some common sense.
You know, but that's it. You know, that's we're digging the bottom of the barrel trying to come up with our excuses now. Okay, I'll go on to an easier one, little couple of simpler ones maybe. Well, I'll tell you one today I heard. This guy, my brother called me that he meant at a funeral of all places, but
a burial, mother.
A burial, excuse me.
It was a
And
burial.
this guy said, yeah, he said, I'm going to have to, he drove up from Arizona to Colorado to come to this burial. Well, now he's going to go back to Arizona, but he said, I'm going through Utah because I bought a $250 cowboy hat. And they haven't sent it to me, so I'm stopping at the shop and I'm going to get it from them. Okay, first of all, he bought a $250 cowboy hat. Don't be buying $250 cowboy hats. Don't be, with gas being so expensive, driving like, I don't know, 8 hours or something like that out of your way to go pick up this cowboy hat. I mean, these are the little things. He didn't think anything about doing that, going to get or having a $250 cowboy hat. We went, and other little things, you know, we talk about the coffee all the time, but what about going and getting a car wash? Oh, my kids have mocked me for years. They've just mocked me for years. Well, I'm scared of car washes, so that's the main thing. But I've never wanted to take money to go pay for a car wash. I don't have the money to go pay for a car wash. That's how I can live like I do with no mortgage, no debt, and comfortably, you know, because I do these things. So what do? I back my car out when I know there's going to be a heavy rainstorm. I back my car out from under the carport of the garage and let it get rained on. Now, didn't it look nice? I mean, it sparkled. But people don't think, well, I'm just getting a few car wash, you know, a couple times a month. It's only $16. It's no big deal. That's what, over $100. You probably spent over $100. And to just get a simple car wash, why not pull the hose out? Think of this. Okay, what are you going to think? I'm not going to get a car wash. So what can I do to keep my car clean? I can take my garden hose and I can spray it down and wash it by hand just fine. I can take my own vacuum cleaner and vacuum it out. You know, if I don't have a vacuum cleaner, I can just say somebody saying I don't have a vacuum cleaner. We used to use a whisk broom. It was a little tiny whisk broom that my dad had us use to whisk the dirt out of the car. There are ways you can do these things.
Well, in the car wash here, they have free vacuums even if you don't wash your car there.
Yeah, look for these things. Keep your eyes open and think and try to figure out, what can I do? Ask other people, what do you do in a situation like this? And some people paid a lot more than $8 a car wash. I mean, I heard one person $150 to have their car washed and detailed. I'm thinking, I don't even hardly pay that much for my cars, let alone.
Oh, that's cheap. A lot of people spend $200 or more.
Yeah.
Well, and we know the guy who owns the car wash here in town, and it's $25 a month. And he said that the average person goes through 1.5 times a month. Wow. That is super expensive.
They get the monthly fee instead of paying like the $7 or $8 to go through once, because they think they're getting a better deal.
Yeah.
Watch some of these deals. Sometimes when you buy large quantity of food, you need to figure out, okay, am I really getting a less price? Will I throw half of that away once I open it? So you got to watch these good deals like that. Some people, sometimes you will do things like, we need to support our local businesses. That's what a lot of the quilt gals and yarn people say. We need to support our local businesses. Okay. I had a small little business, and I appreciated everybody supporting me in it, The thing is, to me, this is like saying, especially if you have a lot of debt and don't have your mortgage paid off, if you say, we need to support our local businesses. So that's why I went to this store and bought this. It's like a dad that leaves his family and he does not pay them one penny of support for his children. But he went to the local downtown businesses and spent all the money that he had for child support to support the local businesses. Now, does that even make common sense to you? Do you think that's right on any level, that he didn't have the money to pay his child support, but he had the money to go down to the local businesses? The point I'm trying to make is that's fine to support them, but if you can't even support your family and you have them in debt and you have a large mortgage, you need to get that taken care of first. When you have that under control and you have the money, then you can support these more expensive places. You should support not even Walmart if you can't afford it. You know what I mean? And so look for these little places where you do that. Do you give a big chunk of money to school for a donation to help the band or to help this, the arts or the drama thing or something? That's fine if you've got the money to do it.
No, let's rephrase that. It's fine if you are totally 100% debt-free, including paid off your house, and your retirement is fully funded.
Yeah. Then you can do these kind of things. And if you want to do something, then volunteer to give your time. You don't always have to do this stuff with money. But see, it's more comfortable for you to give the money than to volunteer some of your time. You see what I mean? So watch for these little pieces at work, Secret Santa. Well, you don't want to be embarrassed. So you give to the Secret Santa. I just would politely say, no, I can't do the Secret Santa. Something like that. Get rid of all these little chunks of things where you're putting your money. I don't want to even go into clothes and shoes.
Well, hold on. We have a question about donations for school. What if your nephew asks for donations for stuff? Just say, I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah. I even told my own grandkids up front, Nan's not paying for anything when they send you home with this thing to buy.
Our family has had a zero fundraiser policy in our household for 20 years of going to school. Zero. We do no fundraisers because it's a waste of money. These schools are not managing their money well, and I am not going to give or ask my friends and family to give their money to fund these things when they're not managing it well in the first place. So,
but you know what? You're setting a good example for that child when you say no. Say, I'm trying to pay off my debt, and when I get that done, then I can do stuff like this. When a child sees nothing but parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and everything just giving, and then they are stressed out because they're in debt and they're griping all the time about their money. What kind of an example? I would rather say, no, I can't donate right now to that child and risk hurting their feelings or whatever, than for them to listen to me gripe about not having money or being stressed or something like that, or not seeing a good, responsible example in me type of thing. So is that all the questions on that one?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Of course, some of the other things that are kind of a little bit more obvious is, oh my goodness, people, I can't afford this or I can't afford that, but they just paid how many $1,000s for a wedding. I was thinking today, how many people say we can't get married because it's too expensive?
We're going to live together, so we can't get married.
How much does a marriage license cost?
Like $20.
Do you know in the 40s, that was about the only way people got married, was they would get a marriage license and go to a justice of the peace. That's all people could afford during the war. If you don't have the money, if you're going to have to charge a huge wedding, don't do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Maybe at your 10-year anniversary, if you wanted to, and it saved enough money by then you could have a nice reception of some sort if you want to. But don't pay for the things you can't afford to do. A new car. We've talked about cars before. You know, I had a gal say, well, I have to have a new car because I need reliability going to and from work. I've had several people tell me this. And you don't have to work, they said to me, so you don't need to worry about having a new car. Well, I finally figured out one time when one gal said this to me, I finally did the math on it, and she drove 5 miles round trip, total trip, there and back, 5 miles to work. If her car broke down, she was within like a mile and a half of her house. She was doing it downtown where she could have gone over to a phone and called for a husband, a family member, somebody to come pick her up. And take her to work or take her home, whichever she needed. So this was her situation. And she was the one that said, you don't need a good car because you don't drive that much, have to go to work. I figured up, I drove that year, she drove 1,500 miles to and from work for that year. I even added in extra miles on hers for grocery shopping and things like that. I drove 4,700 miles, 4,700 miles, making 3 trips out in no man's land across Kansas, where if I broke down, I had no cell phone half the time. And I just have to wait for somebody and hope somebody would come by to rescue me. Now look at the difference. I should have been the one saying I needed a new car, not her. So once again, that was an excuse to keep and have a new car, you know, and you can't. And I've asked 2 tow truck drivers at this point, because one of them, I was just talking about my old clunker, and he said, listen, this old clunker is great. He said, and the other one said the same thing, because after he told me this, I asked the second one. He said, 90% of my cars that I tow are brand new cars. He said, brand new to the year cars. He said, these old clunkers run better, and the people keep them better in the upkeep, and so they run better. So these are, once again, excuses. If you can't afford a new car, don't whine and gripe about it. Think, what can I do? How can I save money? Do I use my old one till it just totally dies on me? Do I take the bus for a while? Do I carpool? Start thinking of a solution of what to do for these things, and not just, you know, keep doing them the way you have it, vacations.
Shirley says, what do you guys think of cashiers asking you constantly to round up? I never, ever
Learning to say no to people like this in a kind, nice way. Once you say it once or twice, it'll be easy peasy after that. The first time was awkward and felt uncomfortable. And then I thought, they don't think anything of it. They don't know. They don't care. They just have to automatically ask that question. If you just say no, they won't think anything of it. And see, there's the emotional part of the money thing. You've got to get over these emotions, you know, for some of these things. And you're doing good. I'm glad you even asked that question, because at least you're thinking about it. A lot of people would just keep doing it, but at least you're wanting to try to figure out what to do. And I'm glad you asked us that, because now you know what to do, you know.
Yeah, Deidre says a school donation for sports. I'm sorry, I'm not paying for your kids' sports. If you're going to spend $15,000 on sports for your kids, which is what a lot of them are paying now,
by the time they do the trips and do everything.
I'm not helping you pay for that.
Well, they also say if you want to round up for the children or for Children's Hospital,
yes,
but they don't really say like, which Children's Hospital, who's collecting it, how's it going to get paid.
Yeah, Mike said they don't ever tell you really where the money's going. And I'm not just going to, Mike and I donate all the time to things, but we know exactly where it's going. We know the people personally.
They don't do it emotionally. They think about it, they check into it, they don't do an emotional giving. But if you feel more comfortable than just saying no, you could say, I already give, which we can say that because we do give, you know, to different places. So it's that.
Vacations, Mother.
Oh, well, to people, they don't even think about you know, they say, I don't have money for the chicken or for the chips or whatever now, but they think nothing of taking a vacation. And even for a long weekend, vacations can get very, very expensive. If you have to go, well, you just need to not go on a vacation. You know, that's it. Well, I haven't been for at least 6 months or a year. I'm sorry. It's been almost 30 years since I went on an official vacation. My vacations have always been driving to family stuff and driving back home and driving to family. Not that I don't love my family, you know, but it wasn't a vacation. I worked harder when I come back to Tar and Mike's than I did when I was at home. So it was no vacation. And you know what? I haven't even really noticed a whole lot, because what happened was I got out of debt 35 almost years ago. And ever since I got out of debt and got my house paid off, there is not the stress there. I don't need a vacation. I can relax at home and not worrying about, you know, what's this going to happen? What's going to happen here? That's part of the reason everybody's needing vacations, because you're fearful, you're worried, and you're stressing out.
Well, and what are you doing that is causing you to be so stressed out and so worn out? Well, then maybe you need to start cutting some of that stuff.
Yeah. And another thing is, if you need instead of thinking of taking a lot of money to spend to go on a vacation, think, you know, can we go to the park and just spend all day at the park? Is there a place next to us where we could throw in a tent and go camping for the night? You know, start thinking of what can we do just in our area. You know, go in the backyard and put up a blanket tent with the kids and spend the few days out there, you know, camping out and making a little fire pit and cooking your stuff out there. You can think of things like that. Just go. We have a zoo that has free days in Wichita every once in a while. Plan on doing things like that, just relaxing, go take a walk by a river, anything like that. You don't have to go to Disneyland or, you know, Worlds of Fun or anything like that to have a vacation. And even like you like staying in a motel, it would be even cheaper if you just spent one night in a motel, if that would help you get your fix and go swimming, you know, and that type of thing. Is there any more questions? I didn't know if I should go on, keep going on. Watch these things. I know somebody who says, we don't have money for, I hear them all the time. We don't have money for a new car. We don't have money for a down payment. We don't have money for this and that. But yet then the next week they buy a big, huge, big screen TV and a surround sound stereo system. It's like, people never say TVs are too expensive. They never stop and think, well, I can't afford a stereo system. It's like a given. It's like a right that we have. It's like a, you know, an alien right. Is that what I'm trying to think of? That this is our right to have a big screen TV or a stereo system. And they're in debt up to their eyeballs. So start thinking of all these things. Now I'm going to get on the really two sensitive ones. I'll do the least sensitive. Stop and think. The big thing now is everybody's buying small appliances. And I would love to do a video on the things Jill does not use in her kitchen. I don't have much, do I, in my kitchen?
No.
And the thing is, these things are okay. We're not saying don't buy these. We're saying don't buy any of this stuff if you're still in debt, if you have a mortgage. But a lot of these things you really are not, it's not a necessity. An air fryer, an Instapot, one of those big coffee machines with the little pods. Yeah. With the, you know, the little pods that you have to use for every type of drink. Nobody talks about how expensive those are. Nobody says the pods are too expensive, but they'll holler about rice going up, the price on rice going up. Are you hearing what you're saying here? It's like we've been programmed to focus on one thing and totally ignore and look at the really cause of our debt. And so you don't need any of those things to cook a meal. You really don't. So start looking at your small appliances. And then one well, I got two other things, but the next one is kind of a sensitive one. It's like me saying get rid of your children. But let me say this. If you've watched Penny Pinching Mama, you know I love animals. My dog, I was thinking about him today and I started tearing up again. I've had a pet ever since I was little. And I've loved one of them beyond just, I was so grieving so bad when James died that I was almost like in a coma. You can ask Tar and Mike. I wasn't even functioning when they left to go to Idaho after James died. It was beyond, I can't even describe. I love my pets beyond anything. And they mean a lot. Buster, we love Buster. But let me say this. We'd gotten James long before we started having the financial problems. At this point, he was our family. I mean, it would be like cutting off an arm to get rid of James. I did things that was just, that even people that say I love my pet, they wouldn't do half the stuff that I did. I never went on a vacation when we had James because if I couldn't take him with me because it was so stressful for him when we were separated. And yet I had no people that say, I love my dog. He's my fur baby. I love him so much. But they would leave him in a kennel and be gone for 2 or 3 weeks, you know. And I knew it was traumatized James, so I just did without a vacation. I loved him that much. So I'm doing this because we got James before we had problems, so we couldn't get rid of him. And I'm not saying to get rid of any of your pets that you have now, because I know what it feels like to love them. But if you know you're getting ready to go on disability, Social Security,
or you're having money problems.
If you're having money problems, you don't have your debt paid, do not go get a pet. And the only exception I will give to this, if you absolutely have to, is sometimes an elderly person, if they lose a spouse or something, I understand that a pet would be a comfort to them. And I would understand it would be almost like a medical or emotional need. I understand that. But these people go out and get 3
but hold on.
dogs, 2 cats.
Maybe before you get the pet, you need to get some counseling to help deal with your emotions first.
Well, if they're just lonely, they just need a companion.
You're just lonely, that's fine.
Yeah.
Get one.
But don't go get 3. If you're on disability, don't get 3 dogs that are St. Bernards. And don't buy a pet bed for him. James never had it. Well, he slept on my bed with an electric blanket. So that's why he did. But you don't need to buy all these pet beds. We never bought a pet. All the years I had pets, we never bought a pet bed. And the thing is, we take a card. What do you do for a solution? You just take a cardboard box, cut the side down a little bit so they could step in there, put a blanket, old towels or something in there. Most cats love sleeping in a box anyway. So why are you going out and paying $15, $20 for a cat bed or a pet bed when they end up in an old box anyway? Don't buy pet toys. James never had a ton of toys laying around. What I did was, so the solution, think, what can I do for a pet toy? I would tie knot up old worn out socks of ours. He loved playing with those, shaking them with his head and chewing on them. He loved them. The kids had a couple of old tennis balls in their toy bin, and he would play with those, stuff like that. Chews. He was lucky if he got every 2 months, got a chew, one of the rawhide chews. And he'd use that thing for 2 or 3 months before he'd get another one. Sometimes we'd buy doggy treats. Maybe at Christmas we'd buy him a box of doggy treats. But he didn't get tons of them all day long. It wasn't like that. There's no way, I just can't even envision him like this, but there's no way we would buy him a costume of any sort. We can't quite envision, can you envision James wearing a costume? He would have been a crack up. But don't go spending money on Halloween costumes, on Christmas costumes. If you've got the money, go for it. But if you're in debt, if you've got a mortgage, and if you're going on Social Security, vet bills are outrageous for animals now. And you've got to realize you can't afford it. If you're on Social Security and disability and you're barely making it, you know. But like the hoarder gal that Tara was talking about, she had dogs, three dogs, big dogs, and 2 cats. Now she wasn't making it on Social Security, and she could, or her disability, and she couldn't afford somebody to clean the house, but she could afford the dog food for 3 big dogs. And so I don't know if you're getting the gist here. Is I'm wanting you to start refocusing on the stuff you do. And the last thing that, should I go ahead and mention this last thing? Because we're going to do a video on it.
No, we're going to do a video on that one.
We're going to do a video on it?
Well, okay, we're going to do a video on this, but the short version.
I'll give the short version. Stop buying bottled water.
Beer and wine.
No, I meant bottled water.
I don't. I'm adding those too.
You're adding those too. And here's some numbers for those of you. First of all, I've done this 5 times over the past 20 years. I've researched this till I'm so sick of researching it, but I make sure that I got things right. Now, some of these numbers, they had different types of numbers, but they were all in the close range, you know, in the thousands, in around there. So they were close. They were different ones, but they were close enough. I want you guys to think about this. If you use 3 bottles of bottled water a year, 3 bottles a day, in 1 year, it's going to cost you $1,095. $1,095. But if you drank tap water, 48 cents for a year. That's how much it would cost you for water. Now, don't say it's healthier. As a matter of fact, now they're worried because they think that they think the plastic or something is oozing into the water or whatever. So now they're actually saying they think the bottled water is healthier. So get the healthy part out of it. It has, most of the bottled water is just plain old tap water from the city that they're doing it. They've said that over and over. Everything I researched, everybody said that same thing.
Hold on. Check your email. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
And so, you know, don't use the health that it's healthier. It's just convenient. And you say, I can tell the difference in the taste. I've watched taste test after taste test. They always choose the tap water. If you put it in a pitcher and get it cold, you will not be able to tell the difference. Now, maybe 5% here in the United States of cities' water might have a horrendous taste. 5%. Most of you probably don't live in those cities. The percentage is so small.
Well, and I've lived in those cities, and let me tell you, I still got free water that I was able to use.
So, you know, it's just like, I remember, well, I'll do this on the video, so I won't do, Tara wanted me to do, she wanted me to do the short version, but I want you to keep that in mind. You have a choice of spending $1,095 a year on bottled water compared to 48 cents. This should be stopped instantly. You should not buy another bottle of bottled water. It should be stopped instantly for that amount of price for savings. So that's for one person. Multiply that by 4. If you got 4 members of your family, that's for one person. What are you doing? You know, that's over $4,000 a year you're spending on bottled water for just 3 bottles a day. And Tara's right. You need to start with the pop and the juices and the beer and the wines and stuff like that. If you're having to come home and have a glass of wine every day after work because you're so stressed, I bet you anything you have debt, you know. And if you got rid of that debt, I have a feeling a good percentage of your stress would go away. Because I get more women saying, I am so stressed, I'm so exhausted, I'm losing it, but I have to keep working. You don't. If you get your money spending under control, you can live off of one income. I've always lived off of one income. You can do it. It's doable.
Well, and I'm sorry, but 90% of the things that people buy are wants and not needs.
Yeah, they are. And
90%.
when you go to the store and you're filling your cart at Walmart, Costco, wherever you go, I want you to stand before you check out, and I want you to look in that cart. And you look and see how many of these things, this scented candle, do I actually need to buy that? Or could I keep my house clean and open the windows up since it's summer or, spring? Look, essential oils.
Hold on, I gotta show them. Go ahead. I gotta show them something.
So look in that cart and look down there. And when you get in that checkout line, how many things could I get rid of in here that I really don't need? Start just for the next couple of weeks. Every time you go shopping, do this. I haven't even mentioned clothes. Oh my goodness, that's another whole thing. But start looking in your cart and doing that. What were you going to show?
So speaking of candles,
somebody sent you a candle?
No.
Oh,
that's the one I was telling you about the other night on the phone.
Yeah.
So I got this candle for free. So by the way, all of you who helped with the Widow Project, we went last week, and Jack's youth group, they're in the truck. Jack's youth group helped her get some stuff done at her house. Well, so she was getting rid of this. So I took it because I was the thrift store hauler person. But look what this candle did. It's a Yankee candle. Yankee candle. This thing was probably 15, 20 bucks. Look what it did. I had this burning 3 minutes. Look at that. That's like a 3-inch hole in 3 minutes.
Deep. Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. I've never seen anything like it.
But see, there's another thing. If you see that scented candle in there, and that one's about $10, $15, think, could I find something a little bit cheaper? It may not be the exact brand I want, but I've got a couple of really nice smell. Of course, I haven't bought them myself. I usually have the kids get them for me for Christmas, of scented candles for like $3, $4 at Walmart. And they smell really, really good. So think, can I find something? No, this is the brand I always use. Look around and see if you can't find something else, Do we have questions?
Hold on, guys. Just a second.
We just lost Mike, so
we just lost our moderator. Hold on.
We don't have a moderator here.
Okay, I'm getting it moderated. Hold on. Okay, I think
We're
I got it.
Man down.
I got it moderated, guys. Sorry. I was gone for 30 seconds. Okay. So, questions. We're going to go through these fairly quickly. Frankie says taco bar tonight with enchiladas. Ooh, she loves the taco
good,
sauce,
Frankie. Yep.
recipe and the enchiladas.
She's in
Dining on a
number 2.
Dime Cookbook, Volume 1 is where enchilada sauce is.
Oh, so she's not doing it.
I don't think so. Let's see. Amy loves us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Ellen is about 4,000 away from being totally consumer debt free. You go, girl. I know you've been working on that for a while.
We've been watching you.
Doing good.
She's doing, and see, this is another thing. Slowly but surely, she's been working on this. She's almost there.
Selling stuff, working extra.
If it looks big, overwhelming, just start, and you'll find that it starts snowballing and gets faster and better.
Yeah. Let's see. Cheryl says, where are all the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts? Be prepared. I'm sorry, I don't buy any of it.
I say I'm sorry.
I'm not paying $4.50 for a box of cookies that is a quarter of the size at.
And once again, if you're debt free and you have the money, you can do this. And that's who, and you think it's forever. Get this out of your mind. Well, I'll never be able to buy Girl Scout cookies again. No, most of you can spend just a handful of years and be totally debt free, and then you can start doing this stuff. You'll have $3,000 to $5,000 extra a month. In most cases, just to use for cash every month. So you can buy all the Girl Scout cookies you want then.
Yeah. Deborah, I took your advice and Tara, been stocking up for emergencies.
Way to go.
Go, girl. Karen, paying off $30,000 seemed impossible, but we cut out eating out, lived within our budget, and kept going. Even when we were frustrated, I cooked 7 times a week for or I think she means 7 days a week for 32 months. Having the debt gone is amazing and worth all of it.
Thank you for that. We
Good.
get these all the time. Our viewers are so good at working at this. I wish we could have some kind of a reward dinner or something for everybody.
Jill,
that's a lot of work. But go ahead.
Jill, I got myself out of debt 25 years ago. At the time I did it, I drew a line in the sand that I did not have another option. I did not have another pay down in me. Strange how cash just piles up in my checking account when I have no bills.
Isn't that something? That's what I mean.
I
After
know.
you get it paid off, you just have extra money. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for these testimony, guys, because I know we say this, but I think the other people on here, it encourages them when our viewers are, saying that they've actually done what we're talking about.
Yeah. My dad was a hoarder, very frustrating to deal with. Yes, believe me, I come from my dad and my family. Love you guys, but there's no patience with me on any of that. Patty.
Hoarding.
Jill, you are spot on. All the things you just listed, no one complains about. Let me tell you, this girl does. I have been debt-free for several years. I prep on the cheap and pinch those pennies. Cynthia, I personally find your candor and straightforwardness quite refreshing. Thank you all for your advice.
Thank you, guys. Those are such nice comments. Thank you.
She just ordered, just so you guys can see them, because everybody keeps asking about them, our planners. They're here. They're huge, guys. If you need a sturdy, that's what we'll call it, a sturdy planner.
Yeah, it's sturdy. It's heavy.
It's big. And it's a full year. It's a full year. So we have those in stock now, and they will not be going on sale. I had them printed here in the United States, and I am not making a large profit at all on them. But we do have them for everybody who was wanting those. And people keep asking, Michelle, thank you. Speaking the truth is so important, but it's not what many people want to hear. Amen, sister. Laura says the Lord tells us not to live in fear. Yes, he does. Shirley, oh, we already answered that one.
And that's part of what the stress is that you're feeling. You're afraid because you've got so much debt and so much mortgage, and you constantly think, what if we lose our job? What if this happens? It's back there in the back of your mind. It may not be at the forward part, but you're thinking about this, and it's causing fear, which is causing stress. So then you go out and do this stuff and spend more money is what happens so often.
Yep. Doodle Toot says, I love my planner more than I thought. It's helping me get organized. By the way, thank you for the book and the letter. I got that. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for all the letters we got this week. Oh, and my gnome article. Thank you for sending me the article on gnomes. That was super cute.
Thank you for my Hershey's with almonds candy bar. I've never seen one quite that big before. I didn't even know they made them that size.
Deidre, thank you, ladies. Happy early Mother's Day.
Oh, thank you.
Cheryl, do any of our cookbooks have bread pudding? Yes. Volume 1 has bread pudding on page, let me look, let's see, bread.
And in here on our bread pudding, we talk about saving the extra donuts that are dried up or the cinnamon rolls that are dried up to do the bread pudding with those types of things too. We show you how to use all your leftovers, because most people throw out about 50%, except our viewers, of course, 50% of their food that they buy. Can you imagine you spend $600 a month on food and you just throw $300 of it outside?
Where is it? I thought we had it in volume 1, but it's not in the index.
Did you look under desserts?
I thought yeah, page 369.
You know what took us longer to write this book than anything, I think, is the index. Yeah. That was so.
You guys have no idea what a pain in the butt
and
the index
hours.
Is. Right there, bread pudding. Right there.
Trying to do the index.
25% off right now. Oh, and if you want volume 1, we only have about 100 or so copies left. And the new shipment will be here around the 1st of June, we hope, depending on supply issues at the moment. So we eat like kings in America. Our poorest people are the richest around the world. Oh my goodness. If you want to really tick me off.
That's right. That's so true.
Use the word food scarcity to me. I am sorry. There is not a food scarcity issue in America at all.
Yeah.
Period.
It's not. Yeah.
There is. Even The poorest of poor people have no idea what true food scarcity is.
We're not just saying this. When we've been saying this for a little bit, and I went and looked it up, and they online and just researching. I should have been a research librarian. I love to do research, and they said that most like homeless people and stuff like that, there's so many food kitchens, so many shelters now, and things, food banks and stuff, that our poor people really have it pretty good.
And okay, back to the Christmas tree every time. It is my gardening tree for
She's got
Mother's
a gnome
Day.
up at the top. She's got a little wheelbarrow. She's got little watering cans, little terracotta pots, little hand tools.
That is my Mother's Day gardening tree for me.
It's so cute.
So so I have that. Oh shoot, hold on guys, let me there we go. I think I got it again. Sorry. Okay, let's see real quick. Aldi's has a good knockoff for Girl Scout cookies. Yes, they do. Oh, she wasn't meaning watch out. She's meaning there won't be any this year. So maybe they're having a shortage or something but sorry, I don't buy them anyway. That's crazy. Okay. Let's see. Victoria says,
if we get your question wrong, sorry guys, but we've got hundreds of these scrolling through on Facebook and YouTube that we're trying to keep track of.
Paige says, you got to know where your money goes.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, is just be aware of this.
Victoria, we all have great advice. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Alicia says, I don't have a credit card and we rent, no mortgage. Very good.
Very good. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Louise says, I love the feeling of being debt free. Yes. Heather. Go ahead.
Well, put a thumbs up. Those of you that are debt free and it feels good, put a thumbs up so the others will know. I don't think anybody totally understands the complete relief of being debt free feels like. They've never experienced it, because a lot of people from college on, even high school, have been charging things, and they have no clue what it feels like at all. And somebody asked me one time, well, what if I backslide? What if I get out of debt and I backslide? First, you do it again. But the thing is, I have yet to have anybody backslide, talk to me, because it's such a wonderful feeling. You don't want to have that again. You do everything in your power to keep from going back into debt. Oh, look at the thumbs up. I can see yellow, so I assume they're thumbs up.
Yep, they're all coming.
I can't read your comments, but I can see the yellow thumbs up.
Heather, how do you store water for emergency preparedness if you don't buy bottled water? So we save soda bottles, we save apple juice bottles, and things like that. Now, normally that's not stuff that we're buying. Like we will get it if the church is having VBS or something. I will say, can I have your bottles? If we have a birthday party or a holiday or something and we actually do buy soda, we only buy soda for special occasions, then we'll save those.
And if we go someplace, a lot of times they serve bottled water at picnics or different things you go for special events. I always save my bottles and I watch everybody throws them away. I just take them home, you know. You'd be surprised how many things once you get started. My neighbor, she threw out these cool tea containers, and I grabbed it out of a trash can, because we share a trash can. And so I asked her, I said, if you get any more of these, would you save them? And she saved them for me with no problem. So
Deborah, we've always lived below our means, paid cash for a house when we built it, and we always pay cash for cars. Keep cars at least 10 years. My current one is 7 years old. Good
Way
job.
to go. That's the perfect example.
Yep. I put the link for the planners in there just a second ago, guys, for those of you who want one. And just so you know, I have about 40 of these left. And about, I think 8 of these left. And I'm not ordering any more until I can find another printer. So I'm having printer issues. And I'm not going to order anymore until we can find a printer, and that's not been easy. So I don't know when we'll get them back in stock, but just so you know. Let's see. What was
still
the
getting thumbs
video
up, it looks like.
that you told everyone on how to cut down your mortgage? So I think the video is titled How to Pay Off Your House. So if you look on the little search magnifying glass, type in maybe house,
Or
and that
mortgage,
might come up.
mortgage or house maybe.
Let's see. Renting is a waste of money. You should always buy your home. Actually, I don't agree with that. So yes, a home can be a good investment, but it's not always a good investment. And you can spend a lot of money maintaining your home. You can spend as much maintaining your home as you would pay for rent, depending on what kind of condition it is in. So while buying a house is good, and usually you can get it.
Usually I recommend that, yeah.
But people always say, well, I can't afford a house. What am I supposed to do? I just don't want to pay rent all my life. Well, you're going to have to pay property taxes. You're going to have to pay maintenance on your house. So renting isn't always necessarily just a straight across the board bad thing to do. You really have to look at your circumstances. If you can afford to have a mortgage, that type of thing.
It's best if you can get a house, because then you'd have it for resale if you ever needed money for something.
Yeah,
but there are conditions where people
yeah,
have to rent, and as long as you get reasonable rent and you have all of the rest of your debt gone, you know, that's fine. You have to. What we're trying to get everybody to do is really check out your circumstances, your financial need, where you live, what's happening in that area, and just put your pen to paper and figure all these little tiny details out, you know.
Well, like Mike and I, we actually lost money on 2 houses. Our
Yeah,
very first house we bought, we had to write a check. We had to write a check for $8,000. We lost $12,000, but we had to write a check to the bank to pay off our first house that we didn't even owe anymore. We didn't even own the house anymore. It wasn't ours. And we lost $12,000. The next couple houses down, we lost $20,000 on that house. So houses are not always a good investment.
So check out your area, because where we live, nobody was buying a home. It was in a 400 people town, you know, so you need to check your area. But I know what you're meaning, because usually people do say it is better to buy. But
let's see. Do you all have a special on how to live clean housework with CFS video? So just go look up, just type in chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia. We have several videos on that, but basically just do it in 5-minute increments as you have the energy. We call it commercial cleaning. Watch a show during the commercials, get up and go load the dishwasher.
I think it's on our website too. If you type in 5-minute cleaning on the website, you can read on it too.
Okay, let's see. Girl Scouts get very little money from the cookie sales. Yeah, like something like 10 cents a box. Yeah.
I just saw a comment here.
I don't do that.
To sacrifice, I think it went by, but it was talking about sacrifice some things, is what she said, and she had a good point.
Jackie says sacrifice one of your wants: a cup of coffee, new phone, hairdresser, nails, to get your dog a toy, food, pretty easy. Yeah,
that's what you have to start sacrificing, a few things, and start, you know, like she said, give up. If you're drinking 4 cups of coffee a day, then drink just 3 that day. Or maybe just fix yourself a half a cup instead of a full cup. Or just think of ways to do this stuff, you know, little things that you can give up, and start slowly. Most of the stuff we're telling you about, pick 1 thing or 2 things out of what we talked about tonight and start doing that. And if you start slower, instead of just going cold turkey on all of this, if you go cold turkey, it's like going on a horrible diet of only carrots and celery stick, and you won't be able to stick to it. So just start doing 1 or 2 things, little things that you can think of, and you'll start getting on a roll. Just like I was saying when whoever was taking the trash out, you know, getting trash out, she was starting with a few bags. And what happens is once you do that, start doing a little bit, then it'll it'll inspire you so much you'll keep going.
Is bread pudding good? I love it. I absolutely love bread pudding. I mean, I think it's really good, but I guess it
A lot of
depends on
people
you.
love it. Yeah.
Lauren says orange juice is $6.50 a gallon. Yeah, we don't buy orange juice then.
Yeah. See, I don't even.
Yeah,
because
that's just
we don't,
not even an option.
We only
So-
use orange juice not to drink, but for nutritional value. For example, if we buy orange juice, they'd get the 6 ounces or whatever. I think it's 6 ounces of juice for breakfast. That's their nutritional value of vitamin C for the day. Otherwise, they don't just come in and chug a jug.
No, we don't allow our kids just to drink milk.
That's the
and
biggest
juice.
thing. If you
No.
go to tap water, we figured out that 1/3 of most people's groceries bill has some kind of drink stuff for hot chocolate, juice boxes, sugar to put in coffee itself, tea bags. You start adding all that kind of stuff up, creamer, juice, pop, alcohol. 1/3 of your monthly bill, grocery bill, is for juice or food stuff.
Kaylee, do we have a video showing the planner? Yes. If you go to the sales page, Mike has a video embedded. It's kind of hard to tell here because it's all white, but let's see. Let's try. Let's see.
Got it?
There. So you can kind of pause that, maybe go back and pause that and look at it. But it's actually a system for cleaning and keeping your house in order. So go look at the video. It's on livingonadime.com. Click on the shop and then click on the planner and it's right there. Let's see. Snowboo said, or Salbu, I don't know. Finally bought your cookbook. So nice to have staples to make muffins, breads, and make homemade cleaners. Yay.
There again,
Glad.
a little bit of stress was off of her. Here you get in the middle of cooking something, you don't have what you need, so all these small things add up.
Yeah. Let's see. Patricia, technically even renters pay for house insurance and taxes, but it's included in the rent payment. Well,
Yeah.
yes. But what I'm saying is, as a homeowner, you're going to have to pay for all those things. So renting may or may not necessarily be a good thing for you to do.
If you're going to lose money on the house when you get ready to move, like we did. And I have done that a couple of times, lost money on houses too.
So,
that's why you have to just kind of take it all and figure it all out.
Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Do we even have anybody left after all we went through?
Yes, we do. I'm just having a hard time doing the comments because, do you like Fly Lady? No, not really. I mean, if the system works for you, go for it. But I think her system is way too complicated.
Well,
so, but
the
whatever you want to do.
The systems I've ever seen on cleaning, it's almost, if you follow, Fly Lady and some other systems have, this is what you do every day, and they make the list. And what happens is, I have to clean my house totally different from what Tara did when she had 4 babies and little toddlers and kids. Totally different. How can we all go by the exact same list? You really can't. And they have maybe some adaptation to it a little bit, but it was almost too strict. If I'd been up with a newborn all night long, I couldn't get up the next morning and take my shower and clean the inside of my shower or something like that. These things didn't work for my time in life and my situation. I've also noticed several of these different housekeeping things like that. They start writing these manuals after their kids are grown or in high school. And even the big one now, besides, there was another really big lady now, we won't mention her name, but she's huge. Everybody swears by her. And one gal said, I was having trouble because she didn't mention things involving children. Well, come to find out, the gal didn't have any kids. And when she got married and got kids, she said, I have to revamp the stuff I did because now I have children and I see my ways didn't work with kids. And so this is why you need to get the basics down that's kind of why these planners help too. You can write down the basics that you need for your household and then just follow them.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
why people like the planner, because in the
It's
front
a general
here,
idea, but it's not, you
Yeah.
have to do this
so
every
in the
day.
front here, I have a weekly cleaning list and then a monthly check and a yearly checklist. And then you pick, first of all, what actually needs to be done.
Don't ever clean anything that does, you know,
Don't go and
that
dust
was
if it's
another
not
thing
dusty.
I didn't like because they say every Monday you
Yeah.
have to dust. My house didn't need dusting every
No.
week. You know, I could go 2 weeks with me by myself. So to have that on that today that I had to do, you
Yeah.
know, it's totally different.
And the other question was, are they undated? Yes, they are undated, so that you can use it all year. Here's the link again for them. For those of you who missed the planners, it's the same ordering page as our cookbooks. Just so you guys know. Shoot,
And
Go ahead.
another thing on those Fly Lady and those types of things, if they work for you, and there are some of you it works perfect for you because you got her situation. But what I feel bad about is so many people go on there and then they feel even worse because it didn't work for them and they feel like they're the one that failed. But it's the system that failed for them personally. There's a lot of people who work for and many that it won't work for. So that's
Yeah.
the point I was trying to make.
Elizabeth, I got letters from my appraisal district. The value on both my properties tripled. I live in a very rural area. Okay. We just had the same thing happen and I am ticked. Here's the thing. We live in a city where properties have gone through the roof, but the county came in October and I wouldn't let them in. But they had my bill of sale right there on the paper and asked me if this is what we paid for it. And I said, yes. So we get our tax assessment and they taxed us $75,000 more than our house is worth. And we had the bill, we had the sale and the appraisal, everything. And I think they did it just because they're ticked because I wouldn't let them in the house. So here's the thing. You can fight it. And you need to call the county and make sure, well, first of all, people get mad because their taxes go up. Guys, taxes are always going to be going
every
up.
year mine have gone up.
When
every year.
housing prices go up, your taxes are going to go up. So you need to be reasonable about it. But if you have to get an appraisal, if you have to pay to get an appraisal, let's say you pay $600 for an appraisal, but it saves you $1,500 on your taxes for that year, that's worth it. So we already had our appraisal in October, so they need to be using that. But you can fight it, and I would appeal it.
And this just made me think, some of you check your house insurance if you own your home. In the fires in Colorado, a lot of people did not get the full amount for what their house was worth.
Yeah. Make sure your house is insured for the amount that you would have to rebuild it.
See, like if I bought my house 20 years ago and got insurance on it, I never thought to change the insurance.
And it's your responsibility.
Yeah, it's your responsibility. And see, my house was worth maybe twice as much. Your house could be worth twice as much, but you only have insurance for half that amount, so you won't be able to replace it. You know, so they're having a real problem because a lot of them, the houses like skyrocketed and now they can't find a house to buy because they got so little from their house insurance.
Yeah. Do we have a generator? No. I think generators, as a general rule, are a waste of money. It's maybe okay if you need it to run your heater, but to buy a generator to run your fridge or your freezer, I think is ridiculous. I mean, you can, but
one thing about those, you have to have gas, I think, to run them. And if you can't get gas at the pump or you run out of gas, then you can't depend solely on a generator because you don't know if you're going to have gas for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And let's see. Are we going to be able to get 2023 planners? No, I am not doing any more yearly planners. This was it. It is just too much of a pain in the butt to do a yearly planner. I mean, you guys have no idea. It costs
hours and hours.
And it's expensive.
Hours.
It costs me like $2,000 just to design a yearly planner. So I'm not doing that anymore. It's not worth it. So Tara, did you find a place for my Free the Spirit plaque? Yes, actually, I just left it where it was because I really like it in the spot behind my canister. So thank you.
Oh yeah, she's got it right there.
Are the e-courses that are similar to that in the cookbooks? Yes and no. There's a couple of the principles in the cookbooks, but the e-courses are way more in depth.
A lot of our ebooks have way more material than people realize.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. Sorry, everybody's telling me saying about their house. You should do one on what people spend on laundry soap and fancy softeners and scent crystals. Oh yeah, people spend a lot on their laundry.
Those are other extras, you know, that you really shouldn't.
That you don't really need any of those.
Those types of things, get them down to the basic. And your laundry detergent, use half the amount.
And cut your fabric softener sheets in half if you get fabric softener sheets.
And even like if you use like Downy, I remember when they changed over to Ultra Downy. But what happened was everybody still used the same amount. You were supposed to dilute it down, but everybody was still using the same amount. And so, you know, you were wasting a lot of it.
Yeah. Let's see.
I wish I could see some of
Are
these.
we going to keep the digital download planner? So the 2023 digital planner is on our website, livingonadime.com. Click on the shop. And I don't have the files yet for the undated digital, but I'm trying to get those from the person who did it. So.
We had a question on how long should it take to pay off student debts. You know, that just depends on how big the debt is. And how
much money you make.
How much money you make and you're putting towards it. You know, it's hard to tell. You'll just have to figure. But student loans are so serious. Try not to get one in the first place. Do everything in your power not to get a student loan.
Stop wasting money on it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you have one, I would even get a second job if I needed to and put all that money towards that student loan. You cannot declare bankruptcy on a student loan. That's going to hang over your head for the rest of your life if you don't get it paid off. So the faster you can get rid of it, the better.
Yeah. I cut my dryer sheets in half, but don't use them. Yeah. The recycling isn't as bad. Hello, Kimmy. How's it going? Has your brain exploded yet? I was going to text you today and ask you that, actually. Can you use white vinegar? Yeah, you can use vinegar if you want. I mean, it's a good substitute. I would love to hear you talk about stacking precious metal. No, I mean, guys, listen, if the economy, if the fecal matter hits the oscillation
there's
unit,
not going to be a whole lot.
It's
You're going to have
to
at the time it happens. You'll have hopefully you have enough supply of food or whatever to last you till you can readapt to what your situation is going to be from that point on. You know, it's just going to be. I would have a little bit in everything. You know, I'm not saying don't get any silver or gold. Maybe get a little bit, but I wouldn't worry over it as much. I have stuff scattered all out. You know, I've got plenty of food. I've got a little bit of money in the bank. The main thing is just to have everything paid off so that when the time comes, you won't have the stress of debt and the house to deal with everything else you're dealing with.
Yep. So anyway, all right, guys, visit us livingonadime.com. We will see you guys next time. Have a great night.
And happy Mother's Day, everybody. Happy Mother's Day. So bye-bye.
As I call it, give Mom all the kisses she wants to. Because I have 3 boys, and you know how that is.
Bye-bye, guys.